Welcome to Owl the Storyteller. Today we continue with part 2 of our series on the High Middle Ages. The High Middle Ages, spanning from the 11th to the 13th centuries, was a period of significant transformation in Europe. This era witnessed population growth, economic expansion, and a flourishing of art and culture. Amidst these changes, fashion evolved, reflecting the evolving social structures and newfound prosperity. The clothing worn during this time provides a glimpse into the lives and values of the people. One of the most notable developments was the growth of towns and cities. This urbanization led to a new merchant class, driving demand for diverse and elaborate clothing. Increased trade with the East brought new fabrics, dyes, and styles, influencing fashion trends. The Crusades also played a role in shaping fashion during this period. Crusaders brought back exotic fabrics, spices, and ideas, influencing European tastes and styles. The exchange of goods and ideas between East and West had a profound impact on medieval fashion. This era marked a departure from the simpler clothing of the early Middle Ages. As societies became more complex, so did their attire. The High Middle Ages saw the development of more fitted garments, luxurious fabrics, and increased ornamentation. Men's clothing in the High Middle Ages, while still rooted in practicality, began to exhibit greater stylistic variation compared to earlier periods. The basic garment remained the tunic, a long, loose-fitting garment reaching to the knees or ankles. However, as the period progressed, tunics became more closely fitted, often with lacing at the sides or back, to achieve a more tailored silhouette. Over the tunic, men often wore a shorter garment called a doublet. This could be made from a variety of fabrics, from wool to finer materials, like silk for the wealthy. The doublet might be padded for warmth or to provide a fashionable silhouette. Sleeves were also becoming more important design elements, sometimes detachable and often elaborately decorated with embroidery or contrasting fabrics. The length of a man's tunic often signified his social standing. Nobles and wealthy merchants favoured longer tunics, while those engaged in manual labour wore shorter versions for practicality. Sleeves could be wide or fitted and sometimes extended well past the wrists, forming long, decorative points. Doublets, initially worn beneath tunics, gradually became more visible as hemlines rose. By the late 13th century, the doublet was often worn as an outer garment, showcasing its decorative details. These details could include intricate embroidery, contrasting fabrics, or even precious stones for the elite. For the legs, men wore hose, which were essentially long stockings made from wool or linen. These were held up by a belt or tied to the tunic. As the century progressed, hose became tighter and more form-fitting, particularly among the upper classes. Different colours and patterns of hose were used to create a fashionable silhouette. Women's clothing in the High Middle Ages was characterized by elegance and layering. The basic garment was a long gown called a kirtle or cotardie, which was typically worn over a linen underdress. The kirtle was usually floor-length with long flowing sleeves. It was often belted at the waist, creating a flattering silhouette. Over the kirtle, women wore a variety of overgowns, such as the surcoat. The surcoat was often sleeveless or had wide, open sleeves, allowing the sleeves of the kirtle to be seen. It could be made from a range of fabrics, from wool to luxurious silks and brocades, depending on the wearer's wealth and status. Section 5. Women's Garments. Gowns, wimples, and veils. The fit of women's garments, particularly the kirtle, evolved throughout the High Middle Ages Early in the period, kirtles were looser fitting. However, by the 13th century, they became more closely fitted to the body, emphasizing the female form. This shift toward a more figure-hugging silhouette was achieved through lacing and the use of gauze, triangular pieces of fabric inserted into the garment to add fullness and shape. Headwear was an essential part of women's attire in the High Middle Ages. Married women were expected to cover their hair, and this was often done with a combination of a linen undercap called a barbette and a veil or wimple. The wimple, a linen cloth that covered the neck and chin, was a particularly distinctive feature of women's fashion during this period. Veils, often made from fine linen or silk, were worn over the wimple and could be draped in various styles. Section 6. Textiles of the era: wool, silk, and brocade. The High Middle Ages saw a greater variety of textiles available for clothing. Wool remained the most common fabric, as it was readily available and could be woven into a range of weights and textures. Linen, made from flax, was also widely used, particularly for undergarments and headwear. Silk, imported from the East, was a highly prized luxury fabric. It was associated with wealth and status, and was used to create opulent garments for the nobility and clergy. Silk was often woven into rich brocades, fabrics with intricate patterns created by weaving in supplementary weft threads. These brocades were highly sought after for their beauty and expense. Section 7. The art of dyeing, colours and sources. The use of dyes to colour fabrics became increasingly sophisticated during the High Middle Ages. Natural dyes derived from plants, insects, and minerals were used to create a range of hues. Some of the most common dyes included indigo, a plant-based dye that produced a deep blue colour. Indigo was highly valued and was often traded over long distances. Weld, a plant that yielded a bright yellow dye. Weld was widely used to dye wool and linen. Madder, the root of the madder plant, was used to create a range of red shades, from rosy pinks to deep crimson. Kermes, a red dye derived from the dried bodies of female Kermes insects. Kermes was a costly dye and was often reserved for luxury fabrics. The colours of clothing often held symbolic meaning in medieval society. For example, blue was associated with royalty and the Virgin Mary, while red was a symbol of power and passion. Green was often worn by merchants and artisans, while yellow could represent joy or deceit, depending on the context. Section 8. Accessories and jewellery: belts, hoods, and more. Accessories played an important role in completing an outfit during the High Middle Ages. Belts were common for both men and women, used to cinch the waist and create a flattering silhouette. They could be simple leather straps or elaborately decorated with metalwork, embroidery, or precious stones. Hoods were practical and stylish, worn by both sexes. They could be attached to cloaks or worn separately, often made from wool or fur. Pouches, suspended from belts, were essential for carrying personal items. Jewellery was worn by both men and women, more common among the upper classes. Popular pieces included rings, brooches, necklaces, and earrings. Section 9. The impact of trade and cultural exchange. The High Middle Ages witnessed a flourishing of trade and cultural exchange between Europe and the East. This exchange had a profound impact on fashion, as new fabrics, dyes, and styles flowed into Europe along trade routes. The Crusades, while religious conflicts, also facilitated this exchange, exposing Europeans to new cultures and tastes. The influx of silk and spices from the East sparked a demand for luxury goods among the European elite. Eastern textiles, with their vibrant colors and intricate patterns, influenced European weaving and embroidery techniques. The adoption of Eastern fashion elements, such as the pointed shoes inspired by Turkish styles, further illustrate the impact of cultural exchange. The increased availability of fabrics and dyes led to a greater diversity of clothing choices. Fashion became a means of expressing one's social status and wealth. The High Middle Ages marked a turning point in medieval fashion, laying the groundwork for the even more elaborate and extravagant styles of the late Middle Ages and Renaissance.
Absolutely. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more captivating content like this. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue creating quality videos. Thank you for watching and being a part of our community. Remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest uploads. Your support keeps us going.